Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. 7th of October 2023. It's a date that will be etched in history. That's right, this was the date when Hamas terrorists launched the worst attack on Israel. Hundreds of Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel from Palestine, killing over 1,200 people, mostly Israeli civilians, taking 251 hostages back to Gaza. A year on, the war is far from over, and the possibility of a full-blown war in the Middle East is greater than ever before. Following the 7th October attacks, Israel launched a massive attack on the Gaza Strip to eliminate the Hamas leadership. The military operation launched by Israel has left close to 42,000 people dead, including 8,200 children, 96,000 injured, approximately 1.9 million displaced. Out of 251 hostages, who were both Israeli and foreigners, 117 have been freed, 64 are still detained, and 70 are confirmed dead. In Gaza, the healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. 17 out of 36 hospitals are partially functional. The International Committee of the Red Cross have called on all parties to avoid using explosive weapons in highly populated areas. According to the United Nations, Palestine's economy is in ruins as the Gaza war sets development back by 2 decades. The UN and World Bank estimate direct damages to Gaza infrastructure to the tune of $18.5 billion. The war has pushed 1.74 million additional people into poverty. Palestine's GDP has fallen by 27%, resulting in a loss of over $7.1 billion over 2023. Israel has used cutting-edge weapons in its war against Hamas and other Iran proxies in the region. This includes dumb bombs, which are unguided, bunker-buster bombs, and joint direct attack munitions, which use GPS. US has been a generous supplier of weapons and ammunition to Israel, with urgent military sales to Israel after the 7th of October. In August, the US approved a $20 billion weapons package, and on the 26th of September, Israel announced it had secured a $8.7 billion US aid package. And the war has not been limited to Gaza alone, but it has spread to Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria, countries where Iran has a strong influence. It has had global costs, with Houthi rebels in Yemen targeting Israel-flagged ships or ships destined for Israel in the Red Sea. According to IMF, trade volumes through Suez Canal dropped by 50% year over year, and sea lane disruptions have led to 15 to 20% increase in shipping costs. And this has come at a time when Iran is constantly promising to retaliate against Israel. In April, Iran fired 200 missiles, cruise missiles and drones at Israel because Israel had killed senior members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards in an attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. In the last few weeks, Israel has only intensified its targets on Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah. In Lebanon, Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel had settled scores with Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, by killing him. Iran retaliated in the strongest fashion, firing more than 180 rockets on Israeli targets. However, Israel said the missiles were intercepted by the Iron Dome. The US has strongly backed Israel, saying they will help Israel extract severe consequences from Iran for the missile attack. Biden even hinted that Israel and US were discussing attacks on Iran oil facilities. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has said that Iran's missile attack was legitimate and Israel will not last long. While back-channel negotiations continue in Doha, there is little chance of the war coming to an end anytime soon, and the Middle East continues to be on the edge. Joining us right now to take this forward and also give us a sense of where this war is actually heading, we're joined by Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, former Indian ambassador to Jordan and Libya, also a distinguished fellow at the Vivekanand Foundation, Ambassador Daniel Carmon, former Israeli ambassador to India, Negar Mortazavi, journalist and political analyst, also the host of the Iran podcast, with us here on the program. And we also have Fatima Karimi, who is joining us from Iran. Let me go across to Ambassador Carmon at this stage. Ambassador Carmon, what do you think Israel will keep in mind before carrying out any further move against Iran or Iran's proxies in the region?
Well, I cannot go specifically into the details of what it will take into consideration, but there is no doubt that there is a lot to take into consideration. There is a vast array of considerations that have to be taken. But one thing is certain, the escalation from 2 days ago, which is much graver than what happened in April 14, which also was, a very dangerous escalation. This time it was a different ballgame with 181 ballistic missiles, which are quicker, more sophisticated, more precise, and the fact that a state has for years now is seeking the destruction of the state of Israel. If I can put it in another way, denying the Holocaust and working to do another Holocaust, then we have to take things in serious. Since October 7th, we have been confronted with some of them, most of them, are of proxies of Iran. Iran was exposed because strongest proxies were weakened in the last year, and now Iran is exposed, and it is a grave.
We'll try and correct that link immediately. We'll try and sort it out immediately. Let me also go across to Negar Mortazavi at this point. Negar, the US and Israel are at the moment discussing the possibility of attacking Iran oil facilities. And Iran has said that if Iran can't supply oil in the region, then it will make sure others cannot as well. How serious can the ramifications be in case there is any further escalation from Israel at this stage?
Well, this can be very serious crossroad or a juncture in the war. It can turn into a major escalation, basically bringing the war to the next level, or it can be similar to the tit for tat between Israel and Iran that we saw back in April, and essentially both sides took an off-ramp and avoided a major escalation back then. I think the main decision maker here is the United States. The Israelis have been pushing the United States to either support them more or enter the war in attacking Iran. And so far, the Biden administration has drawn a very clear line that they're not interested in direct war with Iran. So I think the ball is obviously in Israel's court because Iran just launched this attack in retaliation to Israeli attacks and assassinations, and now Israel is vowing to respond. But how severe the response is going to be depends on how much support they get from the United States. President Biden just made it clear that he wouldn't support attacking Iranian nuclear sites, for example, which is something that Israeli officials have been asking for. And now there seems to be a focus on Iranian oil centers, refineries, or export centers, and depending on how much damage it's going to cause to the Iranian economy, to the oil infrastructure, the Iranians can interpret this as sort of either a tit for tat, a proportionate response, or if they see it as a major escalation, if it inflicts a lot of damage or casualties on Iran, then I think the Iranians are signaling that they're prepared to take this to the next level and escalate.
Right. Ambassador Daniel is back with us, I'm told. Ambassador Daniel, we were discussing the point about the possibility of Israel and US carrying out an attack on Iranian oil facilities. Considering that serious ramifications it will have on the global economy, will Israel contemplate such a step?
Well, it's really difficult to speculate at this stage on exactly what will be done by whom. I would suggest, although we must give all the options or at least present the options, I would suggest not to speculate. I think the reaction will be a surprising one. That's my estimation. I'm not an official representative, and I definitely would not suggest an official to enumerate the steps that will be taken. But Iran will have to pray on Thursday, and I must stress one thing. We're not talking about an anti-terrorism fight anymore like we witnessed during the past year. We are now talking about an escalation when a state attacked another state. That's a different ballgame.
Right. I'm going to come back to that thought, Ambassador Carmon. Let me go across to Ambassador Anil Trigunayat as well. Ambassador Trigunayat, looking at the way the situation is escalating, what are the kind of resources that Iran really has at this juncture? Experts believe if Iran is drawn into a full-fledged war, that is something it cannot really win, it cannot succeed. Even Iran's proxies in the region have been weakened over the past few months.
Well, there is no doubt that Israel has been one of the strongest armies with a much superior intelligence, and this has already been shown. But Israel is currently engaged in several fronts. It has been fighting a war for 1 year. And but for the United States' complete support, it would not have been able to continue this war. We have seen it when the Congress tried to delay the supplies. So that all depends on no country in the world today is capable of continuing with wars. We have seen what's happening in Russia-Ukraine war. So Iran at the moment also is weighing because it has lost a strategic advantage with the decimation or decapitation of the Hezbollah leadership, on which it properly counted for its defense, because that's the one country through Lebanon where they have the border. So whereas Israel and Iran don't share a border. So the war has to be through missiles, air wars, or through the sea. So that is a very different kind of a scenario we are looking at. But comparatively, I think conventional warfare, they are very much equal, more or less. There is nothing. And we know that the Iranians, despite all the sanctions for decades, have been able to beef up their own military strength significantly. But what I found in recent times is that all the Iran and its excess of resistance, while they have had a good firepower, at the same time, they missed out on their domestic vulnerabilities. And that has been witnessed quite a lot, where Israel has succeeded in the later half after being humiliated on October 7th completely through its intelligence failure, defense failure, and everything. So it has tried to redeem itself over time. But I think that there has to be some kind of they'll have to bring down the tempers. De-escalation has to come, because what we are looking at today is the escalation which every country in the world wanted to avoid is becoming very real today. So, of course, it will depend on which way, how Israel is going to react. It will indeed react. Many people say it will happen on October 7th, just to convey a message. And between Iran and Israel, the thing is, since Israel considers the whole axis of resistance and the 3 or 4 H's which are there, part of the Iranian nexus, so it has been a war, not only by proxy, but a direct war from Israel's point of view. And therefore, if they say that Iran has directly hit us, I think that's being naive. And this is not true. This has been going on. But there was a possibility of a ceasefire, and that is why Ismail Haniyeh...
Ambassador Trigunayat, I'll request you to hold on to that thought. Let me also get in a point from Fatima Karim Khan. Fatima Khan, thank you so much for joining us on the program and waiting patiently. I'd like to ask you, in case this war in the Middle East now escalates, will it be limited to countries like Iran, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, or do you think other countries in the Middle East will get involved?
For having me. I guess all of the countries in the region will be, at some point, have to be engaged in these tensions. And we actually pray for de-escalation, but if the escalation will not be in reach, in touch for in upcoming months, I guess other countries in the region will be a part of this.
Right. We're going to take a short break at this point on Global Eye, but don't go anywhere. This discussion with our special guest continues on the other side.